We see a home in the woods. Inside the house we see a woman, Maddie, making some food at night. Maddie reads the instructions about the recipe she needs to make, but when she tries it, she instantly dislikes it. She gets a message from her next-door neighbor named Sarah, asking to stop by, and Maddie agrees. Maddie puts the charger into the computer, and continues replying back and forth with Sarah on the cell phone. Then, she calls her cat to feed her. We can see her neighbor now. Maddie comes out to say hello to Sarah. She tells Maddie that she read her book, and tries to use sign language since Maddie is deaf. Even though Maddie can read a person's lips, Sarah states she wants to practice sign language. Maddie asks Sarah on her thoughts of the book, and she says that she loved it. And tried guessing the ending, but missed it. Maddie tells Sarah that her brain is the reason for thinking of all types of endings. And how it's just like a movie in her head. Sarah asks her how her inner voice is, and Maddie states like her mom. All of a sudden, the fire alarm sounds in the house. They rush, go inside, and Maddie takes the alarm down. Sarah checks the lamp but it's ruined. The pet cat runs away outside. Sarah says that the alarm is extremely loud, but Maddie states this is due to feeling the vibrations, while she sleeps, just in case for her safety. Later, they sit, and talk about her cat, but Maddie just ignores, saying the pet is free and will come back. Then Sarah asks her to come to her house, and to order some food since Maddie's food got burnt, but she tells Sarah that she is busy with work. After Sarah goes, Maddie gets a text message from Craig, stating he's thinking about her, but she deletes this. Some time passes, and Maddie is on her computer now, eating and working on the new novel. She can't decide what would be the best ending for the novel. Maddie stumbled on the ending, and just made a decision to FaceTime Craig, but ends the call. But now he keeps trying to call her, but she doesn't pick up. Maddie goes to clean the kitchen from her making dinner. All of a sudden, Sarah starts thumping on her door and panicking. Maddie doesn't even notice, and she gets shot with an arrow and dies right there in the window. Maddie still doesn't know. The killer looks through the window and knocks, but has a realization that she doesn't hear. Then he takes the dead body away. Craig is still calling Maddie, but she doesn't pick up his calls, ignoring him. She sits down to write her novel, but still doesn't know the ending to do. All the while, the masked killer entered her home and walks up near her. She still has no clue about him being present. All of a sudden, she gets FaceTime call from her sister and the killer gets away, to avoid being spotted in the camera. Maddie and her sister talk about the novel for a bit, then Maddie tells her everything going on about Craig. Her sister tells her to get back into dating, but she doesn't want to do this. Then she asks Maddie to come back to the city, so they can live together, so that Maddie isn't alone. Killer guy grabs her phone and her sister sees something on the camera. Maddie ignores this by stating that it's her cat, and has to go find her. They end the call and say bye, then she calls her cat by the food bowl sound. But the cat doesn't come. Maddie searches for her pet through the house. The cat is not even upstairs. Maddie calls the cat but no sighting, and just leaves the door open for her cat. She sits to write the novel again. All of a sudden, she gets a photo message from her phone. The photos are of her searching for the cat and her looking at her computer. Maddie is frightened and walks carefully to the direction of the door. She sees the guy standing in front of her home, with the door open. He shows her phone, and rushing she runs to close the door, and she barely does. The guy tries every door of her home, but is unsuccessful and has a realization that he can't go in. He goes to the other side of the home, and almost got inside. Maddie goes to call the emergency line on her computer, but he turns all of the power off. She tries to join Sarah's internet, but doesn't know the password. He walks away. Maddie goes near the door, and he slashes her car tires in front of her, and goes to hide. She writes a message on the glass door and uses a flashlight to have it be viewed. The masked killer reads it and takes his mask off. He asks her if she can read his lips and she implies yes. The man states he knows that she is alone, and has no boyfriend. Then he tells her that he will come inside when he wants, but he will come when she will want to die. She understands, and before leaving, he says they can have fun. Maddie now goes to the kitchen, to get a hammer and knife. Then, she goes to her room, and blocks the door and slides the curtains on her room windows. Maddie looks through the window, and doesn't see him. All of a sudden, there's a shadow on her window. He knocks on her window and she sees him knocking on her room window using the dead body of her next door neighbor, Sarah. Maddie drops her hammer and knife and goes to cry in the living room. All of a sudden, she remembered Sarah putting her phone in the back pocket. She takes the keys of the car out and tries to start the car alarm, but can't do it, so she opened the door to do so, and does activate it. The man heard this and she spotted him walking to the car. Maddie rushes to her room and looks for Sarah's phone in the pockets, but he came back. She goes back inside and shuts the window on his fingers. Suddenly, she grabbed the knife and stabbed him. Since he started bleeding, he ripped Sarah's shirt and wrapped his arm with that. He has a realization that she was looking for her phone, so he shows her, and just leaves it on the body. She goes to the living room, and the guy again tries to open the window. Later, she sees him outside and hides from him. He looks through the glass door and doesn't see her, but he knows where she's hiding. Maddie opens the door and leaves the home, and hides after seeing him. He walks past her, she is hiding, then feels vibrations from his steps on the floor. The guy again walks around the home, to trick her to stop hiding. When she runs, he shoots using his crossbow, but misses and fails. She goes back inside and locks door. She goes upstairs and looks out for him. She sees him at the door of the house, so she opens a window and goes out the back of the home, and is extremely silent. She throws her flashlight in the woods, to have a distraction. The guy goes toward the flashlight and she goes down from the roof of her home, and he shows up and shoots her. He goes up to see if he got her, and she takes the arrow out from her leg, and once up, Maddie pushes him and grabs his crossbow. Maddie doesn't know how to use it, the guy uses the time to go after her. She gets inside before he arrives at the window. Maddie shows the crossbow to him and he goes away. She goes to the bathroom to take care of her injury. She wraps her leg to stop bleeding. In her bathroom, she cries and tries to guess what to do. She tries to load crossbow, but is unsuccessful. Trying again, the guy can see her through the bathroom window. All of a sudden, a man knocks on her house door, in search for Sarah, but Maddie doesn't hear him, but the killer guy does hear. This new man is actually Sarah's boyfriend, being John. He sees the message written on the door and wants to call police, but the killer is present and states he is a cop. He tells John to drop the phone, but he states it's not a weapon, and doesn't want trouble present. The killer tells him to go down on his knees and show proof of ID. John states ID is in his wallet, and that he will put phone down to take ID out. He takes the wallet out and the man takes it from him. The killer looks at his ID, and asks if he lives next door to here. John implies yes, and the killer says sorry for scaring him. And lies, stating he got a call to come and discovered the house. And how someone in the home knocked him out, and took his gun along with his radio, and that he needs to give a call. John is suspicious that the guy is a cop. The killer quickly states that he is new, and is a deputy. The killer guy asks to use the phone, and then John gives it to him. He pretends of calling to the police station department, not to be suspicious, and doesn't give the phone back, by putting it in pocket. John talks about Maddie and states that she keeps to herself, and then John sees the guy arm bleeding and asks him, and the guy lies, stating the man that knocked him out did this. John states he needs his phone back. When the killer man gives it back, Sarah's earring falls. John knows the earring, and asks questions to catch him red-handed. The killer just ignores and avoids this. We see Maddie still trying to use the bow, but still unsuccessful. John is still trying to know the truth of the killer guy. All he knows is that no matter what, he isn't a police officer. John states to him that Maddie keeps a key at the bottom set of stairs. When the killer goes to check it out, John picks up a type of rock, and goes closer and closer to him, and is talking, so that the killer guy doesn't get suspicious. Once John got the opportunity to attack, Maddie thumps on the glass window, and the killer guy stabbed him. John tries battling, but the killer guy doesn't let him fight. Maddie sees this, and the killer man gives a thanks for accidentally helping him and accidentally protecting him. John jumps and tightly grabs the killer, and tells Maddie to run away. Once out, the killer hits Maddie and she dies. Turns out, that this was Maddie's inner self-vision on what would happen, and how she can't run away. Her inner voice tells her that she can't run. Still at home, John actually dies before he could have killed the guy. Maddie thinks of all possible results and the consequences of trying in her circumstance. She wonders what she can do, and if hides, she can just bleed to death. Time is running out quickly, because she is dizzy, and her eyesight is blurring up. Maddie has a realization: she must kill him in order to survive. On the other hand, the killer checks the pockets of John and spots a pack of cigarettes. He goes to her car, and sitting there, lights a cigarette, and makes a decision to go in after a bit, so she can lose blood. All of a sudden, we see the cat. The guy is about to end the chapter of the cat, then suddenly, when Maddie shoots using the crossbow. She rushes back to her home, and he comes behind, grabbing her hand and breaking it. He lets it go, she then locks the door. The killer breaks the crossbow arrow and states he's coming inside. Maddie, using her blood, writes "do it" on the glass door. Killer walks to the car to get weapon, and she inside writes down a description of the man in an online document on the laptop. He is breaking the glass, and Maddie writes a message for her parents. Maddie goes to hide in the bathroom and waits. She begins to blur and is being unsuccessful to be awake, and doesn't pay attention to the killer coming from the window in the bathroom, right behind her. Maddie felt his breath on her neck, and she stabs him. She runs to the kitchen, and when the killer goes there, she all of a sudden sprays him in the eyes, with chemicals of keeping wasps out. She grabbed the fire alarm and activated it. Due to this he dropped the knife, and she grabs it, but he pushed her, and they battle now. The guy almost kills her by choking, but she stabs him with a type of wine opener in the neck, and he falls down right next to her, killing and ending the chapter of his life. She builds up strength, and calls the emergency line, then Maddie walks out her home, and sits near her cat. We see the police arrive now. In conclusion, this is why you don't live far away, especially if you have disadvantages, but Maddie did succeed in beating the killer, but at the expense of trauma, and how unfortunately Sarah and her boyfriend John had to die. The stranger killer guy had no purpose, and was there randomly looking to hunt people. And we see the police arrive.